there was in time of the 2,000 years ago, there existed some very important people. Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai, a great Kabbalah. And there was a man, Rabbi Yossi, and I think one or two other people. And what it was is they somehow found this cave. And in this cave, they found this book. And the book apparently was written by other Mauritians. Imagine an incredible thing, a manuscript. And the manuscript had these Kabbalistic things inside, phrases and letters and so on and so forth, which were incredible significance. And they started learning this. And they were learning this, Rabbi Yossi and some other people were learning this. And suddenly they got to a certain point, and there appeared out of nowhere a hand made out of fire and wind. And it suddenly enveloped the sefer and took it away. And they were shocked that it took away, and they wanted an explanation. This is the Zohar, which I'm telling you. This is the Zohar itself. And they went to Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai, the master of the Kabbalah in his time. And they asked him, they said, what happened? So he said the following. He said, the reason is because you apparently had reached a section of that book which had to do with the entire topic of Mashiach. And the Rebbeinu does not want you to know or that revealed. And that's what he said to him. So since at that point a hand appeared and took away the sefer from them. And Rav Shimon said an astonishing thing. He said, but I want you to know, I tell you that when the Mashiach is about to come, every child will know what you people were not allowed to know. An astonishing thing. That's what he said. Every child will know what you people were not allowed to know. And I mentioned this notion a number of times, that there are things which we are allowed to know now, things which we see in Moshe Chaim Masnado Sefer, which we see in general, which people of much greater stature did not know, and were not allowed to know. An amazing, amazing thing. I mean, you people, who are we to know things that the Rambam did not know? An incredible thing. But that's because we are at a different point in history. We are at a greater point in history. In the sense that we are at a point in history when the force of the Yetzer Hara, the force of the power of evil is diminished almost to a degree where it's almost gone. The power of the darkness has been diminished to such a degree that it's almost gone. So therefore, what's dropping out of heaven are the sparks of awareness and of knowledge of the interior processes of how God is doing things. And what we are learning this week, last week, and what we're learning the next couple of weeks throughout the summer, with this small voice, almost like a hand goes out, take away. But we'll be those things. We will delve into the secrets of the Hashgacha stuff. So this is it's very, very important to get some kind of grasp of what it is.
Grab you out of the way.
I know, you gotta keep my eyes out, you know? Watch my back. Where is this material? This material is in Rav Moshe Chaim Masnado. It's in a number of different places. And what I try to do is to digest this material so that it becomes understandable. We spoke about a very, very critical concept last week called Zichron HaGof. And it is at the heart of all this world, of all Olam Haba. It's at the heart, Zichron HaGof. And to get a better understanding, if you remember the week before that, I'm not going to go back into that, we had asked a number of important questions, and the upshot of all those questions was that it appears that in a future time called Olam Haba, in the future world, the group, our bodies will be involved. We will be in our bodies at that future time. And we asked a number of questions this week why that is and so on, and fundamentally we had critical questions of, it doesn't make sense why that should be, but we proved conclusively, and we say every day in Shemona Esrei, we say, what do you call it, Melech Meisim Machayim Asmiyah Yeshua, Machayim Meisim, Bavad Hashem Machayim Meisim, the Baruch who resurrects the dead. And we were talking about this, and what we saw was clearly that all of us will one day arise and relive again, even after we die. And the Baruch will put our neshamas back into the guf. And we will arise to again become people. So we asked a number of questions why that would be. And of course we answered, we began the answer last week. And the key to that answer lies in Zichar HaGuf. Not only is Zichar HaGuf the answer to that question, but Zichar HaGuf is the answer to why everything else is going on out there. What we said was the following. Adam Rishon was the first man who was created. And he was created with certain constituents. The essential constituents that he was created with were two things. Adam had a neshama and a guf. Right? Two things. A soul and a guf and a body. The neshama was placed into that guf, and the result was a person. What we said last week was a very important thing. The concept of Zichar HaGuf, meaning the following: that the neshama was created with half its energy, with half of its power, and when it was placed in the guf, it was placed there in a very diminished form. What the Baruch told Adam was not to eat from the Eitz Hadas of the law. He told him not to eat from that and to keep the mitzvah which he was saying. If Adam had kept that mitzvah, if he had not transgressed in eating from the Eitz Hadas of the law, an incredible thing would have happened. What is that? What we discussed last week was the concept, was the comparative analysis of the different substances that were created. And what we established was that basically there were two substances that were created in the world. One is a substance called Ruchni, spirit, and the other is a substance called Gashmi, which is physical matter. And what we said was that when these two substances are combined together, a very strange thing happens. Initially, when these two are combined together, this serves as a mask to that. Gashmi serves as a mask to Ruchnius. Gashmi is the substance, material, which because of its nature conceals Ruchnius, or spirit. Spirit is a substance which is much finer, much subtler. Hence, it has a much direct connection with the Rebbeinu Shalom. When Ruchnius is placed in Gashmi, when this type of material is placed in that type of material, Gashmi will have the effect of masking Ruchnius. It conceals it. It produces like a barrier. A barrier to what? The barrier that Ruchnius, that was composed of spirit, no longer has access to the awareness or sensation of spirit. It no longer has access to this. That's what happens. Gashmi has the ability to mask spirit, so that the spiritual substance cannot come into contact or establish contact with the entire world of Ruchnius, which is the larger world and the greater world. That's the initial activity. But what happens is, because of the power which lies in Ruchnius, because of the kedusha which lies in Ruchnius, it slowly begins to eat away at the barrier. It begins to eat away at the barrier. And what it does is a remarkable thing. It begins to melt or dissolve the critical factor in the Gashmias, which does not allow the Ruchnius to come in contact with the higher world. it is a certain quality, it is a certain factor. We call that, let's say, for lack of a better word, an opaque factor. Because what it does, it creates an aspect of opaqueness so that Ruchnius cannot break through. It is a barrier, and Ruchnius cannot break through to come into contact with its own world. It is an opaque factor. But what the Ruchnius is able to do is that, having been inside the Gashmias, it slowly begins to work on the Gashmias, and it removes that opaque factor. It doesn't destroy the substance of the Gashmias. It cannot do that. Gashmias is its own substance, is its own form. But Gashmias has an opaque quality to it. Ruchnius is able to eat away, dissolve that opaque quality, and what happens is a very interesting thing. It converts the Gashmias into an exterior of glass, almost. So that even though it continues to be surrounded by the Gashmias, it no longer has the opaque feature. Ruchnius then suddenly can come in total contact with that world called Ruchnius, or the spiritual world. Even though it's contained within the Gashmistic factor. That process is called in Hebrew Zichoch. Zichoch means to purify. That's what it is. Technically what it really refers to is the ability to de-opaque Gashmias, if I may use that term. That's what has the ability to do that. When the neshama was placed in the guf, it had the ability to de-opaque the guf. Why did God put the neshama in the guf? Because one neshama wanted the guf to be a barrier to the neshama, so that the neshama is not privy to the world of Ruchnius. Why? Because the neshama wanted to hide or withdraw, so that man would have free will. We've gone over that quite a number of times. The neshama was placed in the guf so that Ruchnius would become hidden. But according to this operation I spoke to now, this would not have been successful. Because the neshama in the guf would have de-opaqued the guf. Or to use the Hebrew word, it would have been mezacher the guf. The guf would have undergone a process of zichor. And by doing that, the Ruchnius perception would have been restored. So what did the Rebbeinu do? What he did was, he approached the neshama and took away a great deal of its power. He took away, more specifically, that factor in the neshama which has the ability to de-opaque the factor in Gashmias. What those factors are, I do not know.
Before the Chet? Even before the Chet?
Before creation. Before Adam. Before the Rebbeinu took the neshama of Adam and put it into a body, he removed what's called the Zichoch factor, or let's call that the Z factor. Okay? The Z factor. To concretize our notion. He removed the Z factor in the neshama. Every neshama has a Z factor. Every Ruchnistic thing has a Z factor. That sounds precise, no? To remove the Z factor in the neshama is to make it unable to mazachich the guf, and to allow the guf to remain as a barrier. So the Rebbeinu removed the Z factor, so that the Gashmias retained its O factor, or the opaque factor. We see that? To be more precise, it is the quality of the Z factor, factor Z, to remove the O factor, which is the ability to keep Gashmias opaque. That is the precise formulation.
He doesn't mitzvah.
Wait. Your head. That's the situation. Do we all understand that? Are there any questions? Yes.
Let's hear what you said. That God gave Adam the neshama.
Yes.
He gave Adam the guf.
Right. And then he put the neshama in the guf.
But what is Adam?
Adam-
God gave him the neshama. Is the neshama Adam, the neshama, or is the guf Adam?
Adam is a combination of both. A man, a person, is a combination of both.
Okay.
A neshama, to be more specific, a neshama can survive on its own and its own sense of awareness. A guf can survive on its own. These two do not have to be combined. A guf will live without the neshama. Because what makes life is another quality called the nefesh. See that word nefesh? Every guf has a nefesh, which is in the blood. But it's an ethereal substance. You can't see it. It is a substance which lies in the blood of a body, in the blood. How? Nobody knows. But it's a substance which is gashmi, it's physical. But it is at the last margin before ruchni, before spirit. In other words, it's the most subtle physical substance ever created before you get into actual ruchnistic substance. It is that substance which is in the body and connected to the body which gives it its life. Hence, a body or a person can live without a neshama. If I took away all your neshamas, you would all live. But there would be a difference. You would all live, you would have knowledge of yourself, but you would not know yourself in the way that you do now. Because the inclusion of a neshama into a body means that the sense of awareness that the body possesses on its own incorporates the thinking process of a neshama. Hence, when the Rebbe took a guf, or an entity called a guf, a living entity called a guf, and a living entity called a neshama, now a neshama can live on its own also. What is a neshama? A neshama is an entity. It's some kind of being. I've never seen a neshama, but it is a being. It is a being different than a malach. A malach is also a being. You see, does a malach have self-awareness? Can you talk to malach? Yes. You can have a conversation with malach. You can't see it. There's no way to come into contact with it. There's no sensory contact with a malach. But you can talk to it, and it will respond to you. And a malach has enormous chokhmah or wisdom, far beyond what you can contain at this point in time. And you literally can converse with it. If you want to think of it, it's like an alien being from a different planet. Except that it's not from a different planet because it's a spiritual being. All planets are physical. So you can literally converse with it. And there are people who converse with malachim. In the Chumash, in the Torah, there are people, Moshe Rabbeinu, who constantly spoke with malachim. He couldn't see them, but he was able to communicate with them in some way. A neshama is another type of spiritual being. It's different than a malach. Just like a person is different than an animal. Right? In structure and function, you are different than an animal. You can, right? But they're two different beings. They're two different types of physical beings. Animals and people. The same thing. A malach and a neshama are two different types of beings. But they're both similar in the sense that both have the capacity of self-awareness. You can talk to both. You can talk to a neshama. There are people who've done that. There are people who literally can talk to neshamas while they're alive. Or malachim, you see. Now, is there a difference between the two? Yes. Because the neshama is greater than a malach. What a neshama knows, a malach does not know. You see. But what the Baruch Shem did in creating a person, and that's what your question is based on, it's a very important question, is that what is a person? A person is an incredible thing. A person is neither a guf and he's neither a neshama. What the Baruch Shem did was amazingly take two different entities that have an independent existence on their own, and he merged them so that they were merged into one entity. You see. In other words, the aspect of consciousness of a guf was merged with the aspect of the shama, so that they're now one being, called an adam, a person. That's what a man is. He is a merger of two different types of beings, placed together. Now, what would be the result of an adam? What is the combination of these two together? The combination is that this person, this adam, or the combination of shama guf, will have the proclivities or the dispositions, the inclinations of both. He will have the desires of both. The body on its own, in its own life, has certain types of desires. It eats, it has physical desires. The neshama on its own has its own desires. And the truth is they're both mirror images of each other in a sense. But they both have different sets of desires. The neshama wants to sense ruchnius. It wants to perceive God in a spiritual way. The guf wants to perceive God in a physical way, and that's really what a taiva is. It's the attempt to know God physically. That's a interesting way of putting it. That's really what it is. Each one has a desire to know God in its own nature. Put the two together, what do you have? You have the desire to know God in two different ways. It is not possible to know the Baruch in two different ways. You can only know one way. Which is the better way? Well, obviously the neshama is the better way. Because the neshama's awareness of God is pure. It is the highest knowledge of the Baruch possible, given our type of existence. The guf also has awareness of God. You don't know that. When you eat and you drink and you're involved in all your physical things, you know God. Because it is the power of the Baruch which gives the ability of that kind of desire. It's really a desire for Him, but in total obscurity. So we went into this to some extent previously. The combination of the two means that the person wants to know the Baruch to God in two different ways. And the Baruch says to him, it is your choice. You determine which way you want to know God. Do you want to know Him through your neshama, or do you want to know Him through your guf? What is the difference? The answer is that if you know Him through your neshama, you will see God as He is. But if you know Him through your guf, you will see God in such a way where He will be hidden. And you will think that you are also an aspect of the divine. In other words, knowledge of God through the neshama is a real knowledge of God. Knowledge of God through the guf is only an apparent knowledge of the divine. Because when you know God through the guf, through the body, God basically is hidden and very subtle. So that allows you to think that you have certain powers which are the same as God. That's where the Yetzer comes from. It is the body which provides the vehicle for the illusion of apparent divinity. Yes?
A couple minutes ago you said that it's possible to talk to a neshama.
Yes.
Is it possible to talk to your own neshama?
Yes. What is it like to talk to a neshama? I will tell you something very interesting which will happen in the time of Mashiach, that you will be astounded, you will not believe. That has to do with just an act. What is it like to talk to your neshama, if you could do that? What is it like to die? What happens to neshama at death? What happens to that consciousness at death? An amazing thing. What it is, it's like if I took your head, if I took you, and I compressed your entire eyesight into a funnel. If I put a funnel in front of you, like a mask, and I allowed you to see a very small amount of reality, after a while you would believe that this is all reality. This is reality. But if I took off that mask and suddenly I allowed you to see more, you'd be astonished. You see, what changed? Did your awareness change? Why did it change? Because suddenly you're a different person? No, because I allow you to see more. We don't realize, but a very important thing that you must understand, and if you understand it and you realize it, you will begin to understand what life is really about and what reality is really about. Take the human being. Okay? We'll explore this. I'm going to deviate. You want me to deviate on that? Because I'll give you, from this we can deviate, even though it has to do with it, so let's deviate from the concept of Zichor to go into this concept here. We can all see. We have sight. But what really is sight? Sight is the ability of what? Of certain biological organs, the eyes, to receive and interpret certain types of electromagnetic waves. That's really what it is. The eye and the cells of the eye are sensitive to certain type of vibrations, with the electromagnetic vibrations. And we're not going to go into the physics of it. These electromagnetic vibrations are called light. That's what it's called. But the question is, are there other types of electromagnetic vibration? Yes and yes. For example, X-rays, gamma rays, radio waves. These are all examples of what? Of electromagnetic radiation. So that what you find is something called the electromagnetic spectrum. You see, light, the waves of light have a certain frequency, and let's say they would be at this point. Shorter frequencies would, let's say, be gamma rays and X-rays. Longer frequencies would be radio waves. What happens if your eyes were sensitive to radio waves? Then if it was sensitive to radio waves, you would literally see all objects with the reflection of a radio wave. They would appear differently. What happens if you were sensitive to X-rays? You could literally see two things. What Superman is supposed to do. That's exactly what it is. When the Buddha created a person, what did he do? He only gave him the ability to see light waves, which means that the way we see the world is because of the fact that our eyes are only sensitive to a very small band in the spectrum, really. If the Buddha expanded that band to include all types of electromagnetic radiation, our knowledge of reality would be awesome. It would be incredible. We would become familiar with the entire expanse of the universe. You see, just because the Buddha expanded our ability to see, hearing, how far can we hear? Well, the human ear can only pick up certain types of frequencies. That frequency range is a very small range. What else the Buddha has created the ability of the ears and the brain to interpret? Or to waves of incredible magnitude. So little, we would hear all kinds of things that are totally invisible to you now, inaudible. We would hear the slightest sound. We would hear the frequencies very high. We would hear birds or many creatures talk to each other, produce all kinds of waves and so on that are completely invisible to us at this point. What about, for example, all these things? The Buddha created all our senses in a certain way, and they're all very limited. Physically, they're limited. The Buddha could have created all of you and expanded your physical perception. If he had done that, then our knowledge of reality right now physically would have been totally different. You see, would have been totally different. So we are very limited physical beings. If the Buddha suddenly changed your senses and your mind to perceive so much more, you would never be the same person. You would be aware of so many aspects of reality that are completely invisible to you now. This is a microcosm of what death is. Because fundamentally, the neshama trapped into a ghost can only see, in fact, the neshama is put into a box, and that box has 5 apertures or 5 holes. It can only see out of these 5 holes. But if I took that being out of the box, it would suddenly become aware of all reality. At death, the neshama leaves, and as it ascends out in the way that it does, it's kind of 2 ascensions. What happens is an incredible thing. It doesn't know that it's going out, but suddenly the mind, your mind begins to change dramatically. In split seconds, suddenly you see all of reality. You see Malachim. You see things that were unheard of. That's what happens. You see the entire celestial sphere. Things that are absolutely invisible, that are crawling all around us, that are totally invisible. Suddenly you see the entire thing, and you realize that you're dead. That's what it is. But that's what death is. Death is a super expansion of consciousness. That's really what it is. We look at it in a funny way. You see, we're holding on to a microscopic awareness level as the most precious thing that we can have. And what we don't understand is that death is the liberation of a microscopic and introduces into the macroscopic level of perception. So that suddenly we're cognizant of the entire expanse of reality from one end to the other. And I don't mean one end of the universe to the other. When I talk about physical universe, one end of existence to the other end of existence. Do you see what I'm saying? That's what death is. But is that the only thing that a neshama has when it dies, when it separates? No. There's something else that happens also, which is an astounding thing. Really. What is the other thing? No. It's more than that. What it is what it is a longitudinal perception of its entire existence. Your neshama was created a long time ago. Your neshama is thousands and thousands of years old, whether you know it or not. It was created at the beginning of the world. And the first neshama was put into Adam Rishon. It was only one neshama. All neshamas that existed from Adam after once existed in him as one neshama. Only. All of us were once part of one unit. When Adam did a sin, that neshama was fragmented into many small neshamas. And they were all put into different bodies. And they became separate people. But there was once a time when they were together. And these separate people lived in the time after Adam died. And then the neshamas again migrated. And they went back down into bodies again. Several times, up to 4 times. Which means that essentially all of us have been here before. What happens at death, or can even happen in life, is that if you were able to speak to the neshama, if suddenly you could merge your mental awareness, you see, and equalize it to the awareness of the neshama, you would suddenly remember everything that you have been from the beginning of time, before Adam. But you wouldn't remember it as disparate existences. It would be one thing. You would suddenly become what's called a longitudinal man. Do we understand? Because you will not be simply a person now, then, in the future. Each one a separate being. It would all be merged into one person. And suddenly you would become a personality which is the totality of your entire existence. Right now, you are only one edge of your personality. One edge of your reality is what's seen and what's obvious. The person that you are now is one aspect or facet of the totality of what you really are. You think that that's all you are, just like you think that all you can see and know is what the senses tell you. That's all there is. But just like consciousness is expanded in terms of what you can see physically, just like a dead consciousness is expanded to what you know in terms of existence itself, consciousness is expanded in terms of who you are. And suddenly you realize that what you thought of yourself now is one small edge of a complete object. So that what you really are becomes known to you. And that reality of what you are is an understanding of what you are in your essence. What you are in your essence as you've been from the beginning of time to the end of time, as one being. Do we understand that? That's what will happen at Tchiyas HaMesim. In the time of the Mashiach, when the dead are resurrected, we will all talk to our neshama. Meaning, we will become the totality of a personality that we are from the beginning to that point in time. You see what Tchiyas HaMesim means? It doesn't mean you're going to get up and live again as a new person or the same person you are now. You will be the real person that you are. You don't know. You are not the real person. You do not have the real access to your reality that you really are. You are much wider than what you really are.
Why doesn't Hashem let us know?
Because he doesn't want you to know, because he doesn't. That level of knowledge is not for you to get to the point. If you are this, if this is the totality of your awareness, right? What it is you are right now that. That's what you have in you. That's what you are capable of. This is what you manifest right now. But you think that this is what you are. This slight segment, this section, you see, this slice is what you think you are. The essence of the Messianic era, the essence of the coming of the Mashiach, if you want to put it into a nutshell, is nothing more than the expansion of consciousness. You see, There are many ways to talk about Mashiach, and we are going to go and get into it very heavily, very soon. Because these things, what we're talking about, Yichagok, leads into those areas. But you can think of the Mashiach in many ways. You can think of him a man who's going to come down and he's going to take us all back to Torah. He's a man who's going to take me away from my rotten job. He's a man who's going to make me sit down and really begin to understand things. He's a great teacher. He's a great leader. He's going to free the Jews from all the Goyim. He's going to wipe out anti-Semitism in the world. He's going to build a Beit HaMikdash. He's going to restore many, many things to people. But is he that? Minimally. These are minimal things that he has. What he really is, he is the one person who has the capacity to change this. No man has ever been created who has the ability to do that. No one. This is his signature. This is his power. And that's how we will know who he is. He is not a person that's going to come along and say, hey, I'm the Mashiach. He will not announce himself in that way. He will announce himself by what he will do and what his ability is. He will have the capacity to forever change your awareness in every different which way. And I can't really, at this point, it is too premature to go into the different aspects of your awareness which are closed. There are 3 to 4 different aspects of awareness which are closed at this point, which he will expand. But that's what he does. He has the ability to erase this line and begin to make you into this. Will you be the same person? Of course you will be the same person. But of course you will be a different person, won't you? How can you compare a person, you see, who exists in this level and who exists in that? It doesn't tell him that when the Mashiach comes, we will have a tremendous simcha, and it says, we will be as limits. Because when the Mashiach comes and restores this consciousness, you will say to yourself, I always knew this, yet I did not know this. It's like waking up from a dream. Remember this. It's not, wait a minute, he's going to do something to me that I've never seen before, or that it's totally new. He will introduce me to a section of myself that I've never seen. No. You know this section now. You know it now, but you don't know. It's like a dream. It's like you see it in some vague, misty, obscure way, and you try and grab it. The more you try and remember dreams, the more it eludes you. See? And that's what this is. When you are restored to your full awareness, it will be like a dream. You will say to yourself, I always knew it, even though I wasn't aware of it. And even though that sounds like a contradiction, I think that we all know what I mean. That's what it means to talk to your own neshama.
So even the Nevi'im, when they would go into different meditational states or anything, were never tapping into that?
Partially. Yeah, partially. Very partially. In the Messianic time, there will be a new man created. A new man. You will all be new people. Totally different than the way you are now. But yet you'll be the same. But you'll be a different species.
What about Adam?
Let us return to Adam, the first man. For we're talking about the zichur factor as removing the opaque factor in the body. What happened, like we said, is that Adam was a neshama in a guf, and that the guf had an ability to conceal or mask the neshama so that it could not come in contact with its own ruchnius. It had the ability, of course, because of its deep factor, to remove the opaqueness of the guf. The Banishim did not want that, because the Banishim wants a being of 2 different desires so that there can be free choice. But So what did the Baruch do? He reduced the neshama in serious quantity so that it lost its Z factor. Now, these are the mechanics. What does the Baruch say to Adam? He said the following: I want you to know, right now you are an entity of two separate objects merged together. I know that. I know that I placed two separate entities together. But I want you to know, it is your job to make yourself into a being of one entity. In other words, what I have done is the following. I have decreed that you and your body, the neshama and the guf, will eternally remain together. You know that? You will never be separated. That's what he did. He took a neshama, one entity, and a guf, another entity, and he merged them together. It's a zivug, or a shidduch, that is eternal, never to separate again. And each one has its own desire. So, Adam would say to the Baruch Shalom, well, wait a minute. If I'm a being with two separate entities, with two separate desires, how can I ever go into a place called Olam Haba? How can I ever achieve a level of great spirituality? So the Baruch Shalom says, because I will give you the power to convert yourself into a being of one reality. You see. But you must choose the reality. Either your guf will go up, or your neshama will go down. That's what a mitzvah and a chet is. That's what a listening to what the Baruch Shalom says and not listening to him does. If you want to know, in essence, what it means to do a mitzvah, what the consequence is, and what the consequence of doing the transgression, that's the thing. Both a mitzvah and an avera have the ability to transform you into a being of one entity. Both. The difference is in the direction. That's the difference. What you and I must understand, what we have to work at now, and that's what we're talking about this week, and we will continue talking about, is how is it done? How does a mitzvah make a person into a single individual entity? In the direction of the neshama. And how does a transgression or a sin make a person into a single entity in the direction of the guf? That's what it is. You choose the direction. But your fundamental motive is to become one being. Let's talk about the positive direction, the direction of a mitzvah. What happens if Adam would have done the mitzvah? If he had not sinned, what would have happened? So we say, well, what have happened is the following, and I have told you the mechanics. You are now all spiritual engineers. What would the Baruch Shalom have restored? What factor would the Baruch Shalom have restored to the neshama? The Z factor. The Baruch Shalom would have restored the ability of zichah to the neshama. And with that Z factor, what would the neshama have done to the guf? It would remove the old factor, the opaqueness of the guf. And what kind of being would that have been? That would have been a being of a neshama enormously powerful, incredibly powerful, radiating power like the sun, encased in another substance which is completely transparent to that neshama. And that person would have walked around with a guf, like you and I, but the substance of that guf would have been changed. Right now, if we feel our hands and our body, you see, it's opaque. When I mean opaque, you can't sense spirituality. Can you sense God? No, not at all. But it's possible for this substance to change, so that suddenly the neshama becomes alive and totally conscious, so that the only thing you are aware of is ruchnius, and that all physical reality disappears, in the sense that even though it has presence, it has no effect whatsoever. It has no desire. There is no such thing as a physical desire anymore. It is lost. It is gone. You live in a body without physical desire. That's a strange state, isn't it? You live in a body, literally in a body, but you have no desire to eat or to drink or any physical pleasure. Nothing. You don't even feel a shade of it. It's all gone. Yet you have a physical body. Because that physical body is simply like a shirt. It's a piece of clothes worn by the body. It's even lighter than a shirt. Because it has almost no exertion. It has no presence, almost. Minimal. So that the neshama exists full force without any type of inhibition, any type of obstruction. Yet it exists in the guf. Is that person one being? Yes. Has his neshama been separated from his body? No. How did he make himself into one being? Because what he did was zichor. Zichor. That is the word. Zichor haguf. Okay? This word is as critical as Naaman the Kufa. Zichor. The restoration, mechanically, what's the description? The restoration of the Zichor factor, removing the O factor. So that what? So that the being merges into a single entity in that direction. That's the power of a mitzvah. You have no idea the power of a mitzvah. What is the power of a chait? Now, the power of a chait is enormous. When I say that Adam Rishon, the first man, had the power to mazachach, to purify, to make transparent all of physical, his body, am I only talking about his body, or am I talking about the entire physical universe? I am talking about the entire physical universe, his environment, whatever that environment was, Adam had the ability by the deep factor to literally to mazachach the entire physical reality. Him, his body, Gan Eden, everything would have changed. Everything. Adam failed to do that. What he did was, he went in the opposite direction. He followed the desire of the guf. He lowered the neshama. What happens when you lower the neshama? The exact reverse. The guf. When the guf was created by Adam Rishon, it was essentially translucent. Okay, we have that? It was translucent. The Buddhism said to him, you cannot separate from your guf forever. You must forever remain. But you can become one being. You can achieve peace of mind. True peace of mind. True homeostatic freedom. You can remove the imbalance which exists in your nature. How? By going up. By being mezachah that guf. So what the Buddhism says, I have given you a guf which is translucent to spirituality. So that the neshama cannot see spirit, but it can still see it a little bit. It's translucent for ruchnius. And the Buddhism says, I want to restore the deep factor, and I want your body to become transparent, like glass. And your neshama, because of the restoration of the deep factor and the kedusha in it, will now be enormously powerful and will completely purify the body. And the body will become transparent. And the neshama never again will have problems in seeing that which it must see for Olam Haba, which is the awareness of the full divine power and unity which exists. So, if Adam had done the mitzvah, he would have gone in the direction of translucence to transparency. Do we understand that? But he failed. So what he did was the exact opposite. Instead of becoming transparent, his guf went down into what's called opaque. He made the guf totally opaque. Whereas before the guf was only translucent with respect to ruchnius, the guf is now opaque. How did he do that? How did he make it opaque? In the following way. Just like doing a mitzvah increases kedusha into the neshama, doing a chait increases the other force. And that other force is the force which we call tumah. There's a power in the world, and there's another power which God created, which is the power of the body. But it is a power also. It is a negative power. And I'm not going to go into the mechanics of it. We did a little bit last week. But it is called tumah. Okay? It is a negative force. What Adam did when he did the Chet was that he expanded the Tumah into the world. He expanded. And what he did was, he forced Tumah, which was outside, to enter into reality itself and into his body. Whereas his body was clean before. It was clean. Now it became soiled with this Tumah. And when this Tumah entered into the body, Adam's body became opaque. Do we understand that? His body became opaque because of the introduction of this force called Tumah. The body is now opaque. Yes. Yes. Let's get more technical. Let's get a little more technical. And now we're going to go into more of the heavy stuff. In the beginning of the world, Adam lived in a place called Gan Eden. That was his reality. What was the seductive force at that point in time? The Virgin chose an animal to be the seductive force. That animal was the Nachash. The Nachash HaKadmoni, or the primordial serpent. What kind of animal was that? Did that animal talk? Yes. The Virgin created only one animal that had the ability to communicate. But it was a real animal. It was a Nachash. It resembled what we have a snake today. Is it exactly like a snake? No. But it was an animal who can converse with a person. What gave the power to this animal? The power of this animal was completely from the force of Tumah. This force of Tumah is the force, you see, which arouses the body to desire. It comes from that force. And that force was in the Nachash, and was essentially responsible for his nature. And what the Nachash did was to go to Chava, or Adam, and attempted to seduce him, and say, why not? Eat from the Isadat, from the law. Eat from that. And if you eat from that, you will become a semi-divine being. I'm not going to go into the whole thing. We did this 7 weeks ago. Again, there are tapes in there of what the actual thing that the Nachash says. But essentially, we found a very strange phenomenon. Adam was talking to an animal in the sense that this animal was a representative of the Yetzer Hara in the world. This animal had the force of Tumah in it, and with that force of Tumah, it was attempting to seduce Adam. Where was that Tumah? Was that Tumah in Adam? No, it was not in him. It was outside of him. It was in the Nachash, as such. It was the Nefesh, or the power behind the Nachash. And the Nachash knew instinctively that his job was to attempt to seduce Adam. That he knew that. The Nachash didn't say, I want to seduce Adam because, wait a minute, there's something I can get over here. It's instinctual. Just like Adam had certain instincts, the Nachash had an instinct. And the instinct of the Nachash, and I'm not going to go into why this is instinctual or the nature of that instinct, but the Nachash knew instinctually that his job was to seduce Adam and to get him to eat from the Eitz Hadam. This somehow the entire world hang in that balance. Adam was not supposed to have listened to it. What would have happened if Adam did not listen to the Nachash? You say, restoration of the Z factor, right? But what would have happened to the Nachash?
Supposed to be a servant.
The Nachash
would have been expelled.
Killed.
No.
His job would be finished.
It would have been fulfilled. But more than that, the Nachash, who is the personification or the representation of this force of Tumah in the world, would himself have become Nizdachich. And evil would have been turned around to home.
It's just the other side anyway.
The other side. What we see is a very critical concept. It's very important to realize it. Most times, if you see a picture or movie, whatever story, going back to Daniel King, and you always see the perennial battle between good and evil, right? What's the perennial battle between good and evil? The good eventually wins over the evil. But how does it win over the evil? What does it do to the evil? It destroys it. It exterminates evil. But is that the ultimate thing that will happen? No. Evil is not to be exterminated. It's to be transformed or converted. It's to be transformed or converted into Kedusha. That's the way it's supposed to end. If Adam had sustained what he should have done by making himself into one individual, listen, when Adam would have made himself into one being, when he would have made himself into a being of neshama, and the guf would have been totally subservient to that neshama, what he would have done is the exact same thing in the entire creation. When God created creation, He created two forces, or rather two forces existed. A force of Kedusha, right? And a force of Tumah. When Adam would have made the world in the ascendancy of Neshama, and therefore made the guf simply as an accessory to the Neshama, not as an independent individual, he would have made Kedusha the main force in the world. And Tumah would have been converted as a simple accessory to Kedusha. Do we understand that? It is the conversion of Tumah, or the conversion of Ra, of that force which Adam had the power to do. Because the conversion of that force, not the elimination of the force, but the conversion of the force would have restored the reality or creation to the domination of one force. And just like Adam would have become one being, all creation would have become one being. You see the parallelism. Adam failed to do that. So the consequence of his failure was the following, was that he literally became Dovid, or he adhered to the Nachash. He listened to what the Nachash said. Hence the power which was behind the Nachash now had the reshut, or the permission, to invade Adam. Just like that power was behind the Nachash, that power now has the reshut, or the permission, to invade Adam.
Just the opposite of what would have happened.
Which is the opposite. You see, the world now goes down. Instead of bringing the world up to Kedusha, the world goes down to Tumah. But when the world goes down to Tumah, what does it mean it goes down? It descends, and the body gets stronger. What it means is that suddenly the Tumah expands and begins to dominate. It becomes the dominant force of reality. So that the world begins to look more and more like a big guf instead of a big neshama. The Buddha says to Adam, I created two different forces and two different substances. Merge them. It is your job to make it into one substance. But you must convert the world into one big neshama. And if not, you will convert the world into one big guf. The world will look like your guf. It will feel like your guf. And your guf will dominate. That tumah will enter that guf. And the darkness will predominate. That's what happened. When he listened to the chait, tumah invaded into his body. Into his body, it went into the substance of his body, into the substance of his environment, and it went in as a shell, or the barrier around the neshama, completely. Now, what is that called? Okay. We see that if Adam had done the mitzvah, he would have converted the what? The world. He would have been mezachet the Nachash, as well as his goal. But he failed. Okay? So what happened is Tumah went into the Bria. What is that called? There's a very famous term that's called, and it is again, is one of the most critical words in all of Hashkafa. And I would ask you all to remember it. Just like you remember Zichuch, and you remember Nam Sufa, you must from now on remember this word. Zuamah, or Zoamah. The word Zoamah is an Aramaic word. It means soil, or that which is filth, or that which is unclean. What the Gemara says, what the Talmud says, is that when ultimately the sin, the Nachash, the Nachash projected a Zoamah into the world, meaning the force of Tumah invaded the world. That's what it means. That force is called Dharma. It is that force called Dharma which strengthens the O factor completely, so that the group is completely opaque. Again, what is that called? Dharma. That's the critical word. Now, what does all this have to do with us? What was the problem now? The problem now was addressed. And listen very carefully. Adam had a guf, right? It was a function of his neshama to what? To raise it up. Or rather, the function of Adam to raise it up to the level of neshama, right? But instead, Adam lowered it. What happened? The guf now became included in something called dharma. Okay? The tuma entered the guf, you see. Now, so what? We say. So the dharma entered the guf. The guf now was now thoroughly opaque. So what? So let Adam go and do another mitzvah, or whatever have you. Let him restore himself to further kedusha, and he'll restore the Z factor. So if the Z factor can elevate the guf, it can knock out the dharma, right? The Z factor is so powerful, right? It's a cleansing factor. It's like a super detergent, if I may use the analogy. And if it can clean out a guf, if it can remove the opaqueness of the guf, it can clean out the guf from tumah. Yes? No. The Z factor is absolutely inoperative when it comes to dharma. Because the Z factor can take a guf which has no tumah in it. Because fundamentally a guf itself has no dharma. What is a guf? A guf simply is a lower level of substance.
Neutral.
It is a level of substance which on its own attempts to see divinity in its own physical way. Now, is that bad? Is that evil? No. That's not. That's inferior. The guf is an inferior status to the neshama in its ability to perceive spirituality. But it is not a negative. If we can use a table here, right? If we use at the axis 0 plus 1 minus 1, if the neshama is what? Plus 1, right? Then the guf is 0. The neshama is simply superior in its perception of the divine than the guf. But the guf doesn't have anything negative in it. But because of the fact that it is so low, it is possible to be seduced away from kedusha, away from real divinity. But in and of itself, it is not a negative thing. There is nothing wrong with it. It has no tumah in it, in and of itself. But because of the fact that its way of perceiving God is a hidden one and a very distant one, it can be fooled. You see. But once it's fooled, it goes down to minus 1. Once the dharma goes into the guf, it is now a level of minus 1. The guf now has tumah in it. What kind of guf is that? That guf cannot be cleaned by the zichus factor. The zichus factor can only work on a neutral substance. You see, a neutral substance, a 0 level. And it can raise that neutral substance into a higher level of Hasagat Chudoi, into a higher level of the perception of divinity. That's all it can do. But it cannot remove tumah. That power it does not have. Now we have big problems, don't we? What is our problem now? Who can tell me our problem now?
How to get back to what?
You can't get back to the original state. What it means? Now that the guf has tumah in it, the guf now has become a totally independent entity that lives on its own, not only things, but it's such that it can no longer be transformed. If the guf can no longer be transformed, Adam can no longer become one being. He must forever live as two separate beings. Do we see the problem? It is an enormous problem. Adam not only failed to raise the neutral guf to a higher level by zichur, he destroyed the possibility of that guf from ever obtaining zichur, because he introduced a foreign alien substance called dharma. Not only did he do it to himself, he did it to everything, to his entire environment. What is now the solution? And what I said last week, the solution is death. I should draw a skull and crossbones. Poison, you know? Why is death the solution? Why must we die? Because what the Baruch Shem says, and this is the thing, when the Baruch Shem said to Adam, on the day that you eat from the you will surely die. We see that Adam did not know death. Had Adam never eaten from the he would never have died. That's how we know that the body goes into heaven with the neshama, the concept of zichur. But the Baruch Shem said that on the day that you eat that, you will die. What was the Baruch Shem saying? Was he saying, I'm going to punish you and kill you? No. Death is not the punishment. Death is the cure. Because the Baruch Shem is saying the following: on the day that you eat from that thing, you will introduce a zoyama into your body. Once the zoyama is in your body, I will not be able to mazachach it. Hence, Olam Haba will never be able to be created. So therefore, what I must do is the following: I must separate the neshama and the body, which I had no intention of doing. Separate the two and take the neshama out of the body, and then take the body and allow it to decompose, to deteriorate. And when the body decomposes by going back into the ground, what does it lose? It loses its surah, it loses its form, it loses its essence of being a body. As it loses the essence of what it is, slowly the zoyama is released. Because the zoyama must connect to something which is substantial and which has an essence. The zoyama cannot connect to dust. You see, it cannot. So the death of the body is essentially its decomposition, its disintegration. Its disintegration is the essential release of the zoyama. Once that body is decomposed and the zoyama is gone, what does the Baruch Shem then do to the body? Recompose it. But now that it's recomposed, now, what is it missing? Zoyama. It is back to where it was before Adam did the chet. It is back to where it was before Adam did the sin. It is again the neutral substance that it was, capable of what? Of being restored. Do we understand? Hence, when the Baruch Shem told Adam that you will die, he wasn't telling Adam his punishment. He was telling Adam what will become necessary as part of the Bria. In order for Olam Haba to be created, this must happen. He was telling Adam reaching the remedy, not the suffering. That's why death was decreed. Death was decreed in the world so that the world can again be restored to the substance which is then capable of zichur. That is the concept of Kriyas HaMesim. That is why people die, and that is why they will be resurrected. Why do they die? To remove the zoyama. Why are they resurrected? So that zichur can take place. That's why Olam Haba appears after Kriyas HaMesim. Because what is the future world? The future world is nothing more than this world in a state of zichur. You remember how we said last week? Olam Hazeh, this world. Olam Haba, the future world. Where is it? Some location which is mysterious and no one can see it? No. It is here, in this world. Except it is unprepared. It is not here yet. Because Olam Haba is this world in a state of transparency. When there is no more problem of a body masking the ability to perceive Ruchnius. You all will ask the question. Well, why did the Baruch Shem then right away kill Adam Rishon? Why wasn't he given death right away? The body should have decomposed, and then he should have resurrected Adam, right? And started the entire thing all over again, right? Right. Isn't that the logical question? Yes. See?
The Kilkel had to be corrected. There's Kilkel, they had to be corrected.
Well, the answer to that is very, very See, but basically, what the Bonishim did was the following. Normally the process would be to do a mitzvah, mezachach yigor. Since Adam spoiled that process, and he introduced a doma into his body, what the Bonishim said is the following. It is not for me now to destroy you, your guf, and then resurrect you and let you start all over again. That's not the process. That's not the process at all. I will let you live, and I will let you continue doing mitzvahs. And as you do these mitzvahs, you will draw down the zichur factor. But I will allow your neshama to live with a zichur factor in a guf which cannot be purified. And in some future time for mankind, there will come a time when collectively I will allow that zichur factor to become manifest. What does that mean? That means the following, that the structure of humanity changed significantly. That when we do mitzvahs, you don't realize, when we do mitzvahs, we are all bringing down zichur factors. You don't know that. When you do mitzvahs, your neshama is becoming more and more powerful. Except, can you see it? No. Why can't you see it? Because it cannot manifest itself in any way. Why not? The guf, the dome of the guf blocks our ability to become aware that our neshama is expanding in power completely. So what the Bonishim is doing is he's allowing you to do the mitzvah. He's allowing you to devote your time on earth to expand the zichur constantly. And what he's going to do is, in one time, for all humanity, remove the dharma completely. And then what happens is, all of our neshamas will go back down into bodies at that time. And as it goes back down into the body, instantly, the body will become zohar. You see? In other words, the Buddha says to us, do the zichur now, even though you cannot see a difference. In other words, collect the zichur factor, do the mitzvah, empower yourself more and more. But you are now in a condition of dharma surrounding you. There is dharma surrounding you. Since there's dharma surrounding you, even though you are getting greater and greater with these factors, right? And you're becoming greater and greater, you cannot make a difference in that yoke. No matter how kodesh you become, no matter how big a tzaddik you are, no matter if you ascend to the highest level of prophecy, you will always look the same. You cannot change your goal. But that's not the way it was supposed to be. The way it should have been is that as soon as you do a mitzvah, it will become instantly recognizable on the guf. Because suddenly the guf will become pure, pure, pure. You know, it's almost like your guf would have become a barometer to literally measure the power of your neshama. That's the way it was supposed to be. But the Bonishim said, I will change that. It will not be like that. Instead, I will allow you to accumulate greater and greater degree of power. But it will not reflect itself on the ghost. Because I will allow the dharma to remain in that body. Until collectively, at some future time, when all of mankind will have accumulated sufficient zichur power, at that time I will wait. And when all of mankind together will have accumulated sufficient zichur power, I will then, you see to it that all bodies are resurrected. And as soon as all the neshamas go back into their bodies, instantly there's a zichur. Because you already have the zichur power.
That doesn't answer the question.
What's that?
That doesn't answer the question.
No. I'm just simply showing the structural change. I'm not saying why.
So why didn't he do it without understanding?
That's too complicated. We're going to too many areas. You have to understand the nature of Zohar and so on. But fundamentally that's what it is. Which means that as you are doing mitzvahs now, you are accumulating the power to eventually create Olam Haba. Make no mistake about it. Except that you will not be allowed to create Olam Haba until one moment when all of mankind will collectively accumulate enough power, Kedusha, to what? To raise up the level of all reality to that extent. Does anyone understand everything that I said till now? It's simple enough. But it's critical enough. But the matter goes much deeper. But I, of course, cannot go into the matters without first understanding this. If you do not know this, we cannot go beyond. Because what lies beyond is to begin to understand the internal processes of all creation itself. Because you see now what really is happening. You see. That the most critical process of all creation, the most important thing of all creation, is called Zichuch. That's what makes Olam Haba. That's what restores the world to an absolute unity. That's what makes man into one being with one substance. Zichuch. That's what we are all doing. Except that that process is no longer visible at all. Yes, Adam before the Chet. It is no longer visible. It will become visible again. Now, the last idea. If one person does a certain number of mitzvahs and another person does more mitzvahs, is there a difference in their zichus level? Yes. Herein lies the whole key to the levels of Olam Haba. In order to get into Olam Haba, you have to have derived or accumulated enough zichus power. If you have failed to accumulate enough zichus power, you cannot mezachach your guf. You will then perish and become extinct.
But you don't know which mitzvah has more value.
No, you don't. You do not know. But essentially what the Shemayim does is as they judge you, they see the amount of sins you do and the amount of mitzvahs you do. And they are able to determine between the balance of the two, how much zichus power have you accumulated.
Yeah, but then it's too late.
Well, yes. But that's the thing. There is a minimal threshold of zichus power. If you fail to achieve the minimal threshold, you will not be in Olam Haba.
Didn't you say all our souls are there? So that means all our souls will be in Olam Haba. Is that correct?
Our neshamas? Well, not in the way that, not if you fail to accumulate enough zichus power.
In all the souls. In all the
Each neshama,
You can't bring your guf in.
each neshama must raise up its guf.
Yeah.
The failure to do that is a failure to reach a threshold. Minimal level. What is that minimal level? Is it large? That's questionable. But that minimal level or maximum level depends on your bechira. You see, there are many, many critical variables, much more complicated than you realize, which go into this, and so on. Because the truth of the matter is that if a Jew keeps basically submissive, even if he does good deeds, even small amount of good deeds, he begins to accumulate an enormous amount of power. One mitzvah has an enormous amount of zichus power. One mitzvah. 1,000 mitzvahs is incredible. A life full of mitzvahs is awesome. We do not know the power or the zichus power of each mitzvah, or the zoyama power of each chet. It is a constant battle. And up there, they are constantly weighing each individual on the zichus zoyama balance, the ZZ balance. Okay? Sorry, picture. That's the balance. Zichuch or Zoyama. Now, you can have both, but it is the ultimate predominance of one over the other, which to a large measure determines what your Olam Haba will look like, and so on. If you have two people, and one person is a tzaddik, another person is a regular person, middle level, tries best, this basically tries to a certain degree, and you have another person who is much more worked out, the level of zichus will be entirely different. What does that mean that the level of zichus will be entirely different? Think of it. What's going to happen in Olam Haba? You have two people, right? One was a tzaddik and one was a middle-level person. What's the difference? They both have achieved a minimal level of zichur. So both bodies would be what? Complete like glass. But the tzaddik's body will be much greater transparency. And the regular person, the intermediate level person, will be glass. But there may be a slight streak of film through the glass. So, he can see Ruchnius, he can come in contact with Ruchnius, but it's what? It's tainted. The amount of Kedusha that Yonah Shoma has is the amount of Zichur that it will perform. That's the amount that will be able to remove the opaque factor for the guf. In other words, the opaque factor of the guf will be completely removed. But there still will be differences in Zichur. So that in a certain sense, you are the own determinant of what your level of Olam Haba is. You see what I'm saying? God doesn't determine how much Olam Haba you have. The Buddhism sends down all the power of Olam Haba. The Buddhism sends down all the power of the divine perception. There's no difference in the transmission. The difference is in the reception. How much you receive is up to you. Because how much you receive depends on how much you will mazachech. How much you will mazachech depends on your mitzvah. Each of us will have a different radio receiver in Olam Haba. The power of the waves will be the same, but our ability to sensitize or pick up the wave will be different. Do we understand that? According to what variable? According to the zichur variable. Do we understand what also will constitute the differentiation of all people in Olam Haba? So the guf will also serve in a certain sense to differentiate between one person and another. The guf of a tzaddik in Olam Haba will not be like the guf of a regular person in Olam Haba. It will not be the same. Both will have the minimal threshold level to remove the opaqueness. Both will have mezach their guf. But the subtleties of that zichur will be distinct in each individual. Yes. The shamas will differ among themselves in their ability to see Ruchnius, depending on how much kedusha was involved in their creation.
But that differentiation is separate from the differentiation that has to do with what you earn. So
what the reason for that differentiation is something else. That's a different thing. That's a different siyah.
Because it's been very difficult for me, aside from like sort of a formal sense, to understand why you need a book. I mean, I understand what you're saying that some books.
Because the guf is what differentiates all people according to their deeds.
But it sounds like what you're saying is that the nature of the neshama is
That's not relevant. That's not a relative. That's not a relative thing. For Olam Haba, the difference in the neshama only exists now. But in Olam Haba, that's not a critical differentiation. But I really don't want to go into that aspect. That's a whole different variable. It's a different quality. I don't want to give you. Let's first understand what I said tonight. Let's clarify the words, the basic concept, and then we'll go deeper into it next week. Okay. The question is, when a person dies and then he's reborn, why doesn't he have the power to mazachech the second guf? That's your question.
Yeah, the guf should be pure.
Right.
But it went to dust, like you said.
The first one, because the neshama doesn't have the power of zichur. There's a minimal threshold that's not achieved collectively until the end of the 6,000 years.
But is the guf pure?
The first one is
The second one?
Yes, it's decomposed. It has the potential to be resurrected. If that's the guf that's chosen, it does that. The neshama does not have the ability.
Then it gets contaminated again.
The new guf isn't.
Then it gets contaminated
The
again.
second one, when he's born again, it's again contaminated.
Rizal in the second guf.
The second guf is on the right.
This is a higher level.
Yes. Yes.
Do we choose the last book? Is that the one that's on you go? The last book? If we've had 3, 4, 5 books?
Which one is chosen, how it's done, is a whole different step. Okay. Next time when we begin to go into a closer analysis of the concept of death, of Dharma, in terms of some of the aspects of what Dharma Saguf is, and so on. And we'll begin to understand how this what's called the Tahara takes place. We'll go much more to a number of concepts, and from there we'll be able to begin to understand what the Messianic period will be like.
So what's the cliffhanger?
What's that?
Cliffhanger out.
Not every week is a cliffhanger.
Straighten it up.
I will say this. Excuse me. Let me say this. From here, by next week, we will begin to be able to understand something which the number of people who literally know can be counted on fingers, and something that the Ramchal is revealed in his poem, and we will understand it within 2 weeks. We will begin to understand the true concept of the Mashiach and why there are 2 Mashiachs, what each one is about, what each one will do, and you'll begin to understand the nature of the redemptive process itself.
There's more than a finger here, so...
Yeah?
There's more than fingers here, so you're going to double the...
I don't know, I'm aware of a new contradiction here. Maybe I don't understand it. The continuity of the entity needs to be in the neshama. Because if there's Gilgul, then the neshama has to come back, take on the body again, and has to learn another lesson. So that, since the neshama is on divinity, let us breathe song. So this is indestructible.
Yes. Well, it's not indestructible.
The neshama is a part of God.
But it's not. No, the neshama was created. If it was created, it can be destroyed. It has no existence unto itself. It is a reflection of the divine. It is not part of God. It is not a piece of God. It is a reflection of God, in the sense that when the Baruch constructed it, he constructed it so that it parallels certain aspects of his being. Most importantly, the aspect of self-awareness, or the cognition of self. You see? So it's a reflection it's like God's shadow. You see? It's like a shadow, but it's not the same thing. And as it was created, so it can be destroyed. The Nafak Vaganava means that what the Baruch did was he breathed in that which is from him. Meaning that's the expression that means that the Neshama is a element of him. For example, let's make man in our image. When you walk in front of a mirror, do you see an image? When you walk away from that mirror, what happens to the image?
That's the body. And the benefit then...
The analogy is the same, meaning that the neshama, in a sense, is like a reflection of certain aspects of a divine quality. It's only a reflection of the divine quality. In and of itself, it is not divine. It's not God. The neshama possesses this because it was given to it as a gift. When God created the neshama, He gave it existence. Before He gave it existence, it did not possess it. It was a gift given to it. As long as you must derive your existence from external, you are not divine. Because remember what we said was the essence of divinity? Independence. The difference between me and God is God is because He is, and I am because He made me. That is the difference. He is independent, meaning He does not have to go for anything, for any need. Why? Because He has everything which He requires. Meaning, He has everything. He has His own existence. Where did He get existence from? He is existence. He is the very process of existence. So there can be no greater self-independence than this. Can there? The Buddhism doesn't have a need because He has everything which is. Because He is existence itself. That is what it means to be divine. He's independent. He doesn't have to come on to an external aid. He doesn't have to say, I need this, give me this. Give me this from the outside. Not even existence. That's why God was never created. God was never made. Because since God is the process of being itself, the process of being is what it is. You don't give existence to existence. It is by the very fact of what it is. You see. The Hashem is not a subject which possesses existence like we do. He is the very process. He is the act or the activity of being itself. You understand it? The Neshama is not that. The Neshama has a quality which is a reflection of God. It is the quality that it can know itself as separate from God, and it knows that it is. But that's a quality which is given to us, you see. But it doesn't possess it. It's composed of a substance like anything else, whatever the substance that is. And that substance was given existence. If it was given existence, it could be removed as well. We've covered some very, very critical concepts today. Very important concepts. And what we've covered is the essential process of existence itself, which is Zichor. And we're beginning to understand the battle of reality between Zichor and Zomar. And we understand what the real objectives were. Very, very critical, because we're beginning to peer into the inner physical process, inner spiritual processes of what all creation is about and where it's supposed to go. What you must understand is that your job is to dethrone your body, is to make it secondary to a spiritual force by de-emphasizing its preoccupation with itself. We understand that. The more you are preoccupied with your body in terms of its physical desires and its needs, the more you emphasize its reality. The greater you go in the direction of growth, the further away you go from being a true single individual. What you must do is de-emphasize that, you see. To whatever extent you can, to begin to go away from the focus of body into the focus of the Neshama. What is the focus of the Neshama? Chokhmah and mitzvah. Doing the mitzvah, Shabbos, Kashrut. Every mitzvah you do brings down Zichor. You see. Every time you have a mitzvah in front of you and you do not do it, you've given up the power that comes with that mitzvah.
But you don't lose, do you?
You lose the
You
power.
lose the opportunity.
You may not, you will not be given that
But
opportunity.
you don't lose. It's a balance. You keep going straight. You don't.
Well, you're given another opportunity and another.
But you don't go down from not doing it. Is what I'm asking.
No, that's also not true.
You're taking away from
No,
the
I have a question. You also go down. For example, it says you're not supposed to eat sphatus. You eat sphatus. You go down? Of course you go down. It says you're supposed to put on tefillin in the morning. You don't put on tefillin. You go down? Of course. Because any mitzvah, whether it's in the form of do or don't, has the ability to empower the neshama with enormous power of zichor, even though it's invisible. To deny the mitzvah, to refuse to do that, is to refuse to relate with God, and to refuse to empower your neshama with what it needs in the future.
But you're using the example of an opportunity arises, not an everyday mitzvah. An opportunity comes up and you pass it by. Does that mean that you go down for not having taken that
It
mitzvah?
depends on how it's passed up. If you consciously pass it up, because you refuse to do it. You know, it depends on what was involved in that, you see. It would be a very serious mistake to leave the shir and not realize the importance of a mitzvah. The importance of the activity of a mitzvah. It is not enough to sit and understand it. To sit and understand it and do nothing is an indictment. Because the Baruch will say, wait, I allowed you to understand this information. Why have you persisted in not doing anything? That doesn't mean that overnight you can suddenly become a tzaddik. But it means that you cannot sit down and do nothing anymore.
Ask us tonight.
You can't. Even if it's a small mitzvah, you have to begin a little bit, a